Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the You Got the Ron Dude podcast. I'm your host, Ron Jam, and thank you very much for tuning in. I am so pumped, so ready, so psyched for Avatar Fire and Ash. The trailers that have come out, the first one I was like, it kind of looks like the first two movies. But then, Spider is able to breathe without a mask. Jake and Quaritch may be working together to save him. The Ash people, what started the conflict with the other tribes, or just, with Jake and Neytiri and that. I have a lot of questions about stuff, and this movie, is Jake going to be shipped back to Earth? Going to get into all that stuff. Is he captured? Does he surrender? But I have a bunch of notes to go over. And if you haven't already, I have a few podcasts about this movie, so check those out. And so I got more theories in that. Nice thing is there aren't any spoilers out there, because I've been doing some digging, looking up stuff, but not to look up spoilers per se, because I don't want to know anything. But a lot of theories, a lot of speculation, and between the first and the second movie, there was a lot of hype just because it took over a decade to get the second movie, and then you see it and it's like, it's kind of the same story as the first one, like humans coming to Earth and starting this war, and Jake already has his family, and it's kind of like, oh, we didn't really grow up with these characters at all. But this third one, I think it's going to be different from the looks of it. And anyways, podcast is available on SoundCloud, where you can also download it for free, the episode, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And remember to like, subscribe, share, follow, rate, review, all that fun stuff. Leave some comments. I'd love to hear from you. We're just less than a month away, and I'm so ready for this movie. So anyways, let's get right into it. Well, I love that clip. Looks like Jake has been captured, along with Spider, Kiri, maybe some others. And Quaritch is looking at Spider from afar because he's next to Jake and going, how is he able to breathe without a mask? And Jake's just like, we don't have time for this. Like, come on, let me go. They're going to kill him. And there was one scene, one clip, it looked like Spider had taken a fall, and Kiri's going like, oh no, Spider, and his mask is cracked, and he's able to breathe. Now, to me, it could be as simple as, well, he was born on Pandora, and even though he was born from two humans, it's like, well, he's been there all of his life. Now, think about this, because the mask for air, okay, but the humans don't have to wear helmets or suits or anything. Like, their bodies can adapt to the atmosphere just fine for some reason. But it's just the air, which they say is poisonous, but it could be as simple as that. Or, the connection to Awa with Kiri. Something magical happened. But you wonder if he could breathe all along without the mask. So his lungs can absorb, our oxygen, and then Pandora's air, whatever that is. Because we know the mother wasn't Na'vi. It was a lady named Paz who mated with Miles, both humans, during the first movie, and then Spider was born. But I don't know if it really needs, something complicated as far as an explanation. I think it could be as simple as that. He's born there. His lungs adapted to the atmosphere, because he would have the same lungs, or, kind of the same coating as his parents, but I don't know. We'll see if they come up with something clever, something mystical, magical, or just like, oh, well, he's born and raised here, and he grew up and adapted to it, Like something I can't explain. I grew up, I had asthma, and one day it was just gone. I couldn't tell you when, I couldn't tell you what year. I know I was a teenager, but one of those things is just, I don't know, I grew out of it, I guess. But not that it's the same thing, but you get my point. So let me know what you think in the comments. Well, at one point, I think in the last trailer, the most recent one, the full trailer, so we know that Spider can breathe without a mask, uses his Q to bond with a sea creature, and then there's a shot, it looks like he's going to be transferred into a Na'vi avatar. Kind of the same way the other characters were. Because you see like the stuff on his face, kind of like little branches in that spreading. They're all lighted up in that. I'm not sure what they call them. But that could be interesting because it's like, well, that would be his choice then, right? Because if he can already breathe just fine and he can connect with the Q. But I think that he and Kiri will eventually form a family. Because just remember, because if you're not familiar, they're both pretty much adopted. Kiri definitely from Jake and Neytiri, and then Spider grew up spending time with the scientists in that, but he would always visit Jake and his family. And you can tell in the way of water, they have a special bond, him and Kiri. And it's like, well, if we want to, have kids one day, it's like, well, we got this avatar, but how long was it growing for? And, I don't know, but it could be really special if they go that route. Or they're trying to save his life at the end. Kind of like with Grace, but it was already too late. Because like I said, I think Spider is going to die. I think that would be the necessary thing for Quaritch to just lose his mind and be like, there's no good, no evil. I'm just, we got to get rid of these people, those people, and something like that. So maybe they try to save him and it fails. And then we see Jake turning himself into the humans. Because it's like, there goes another kid. And it's just like, I want to end this. And he's just desperate. But I don't know, because you remember that movie, The Patriot, with Mel Gibson. And losing his sons. And then going out himself. And seeking revenge. Because we really haven't seen like a furious Jake. Even when his first son died, he didn't have a lot of emotion. He was very controlled. And that's important, but you want to see him break down, and be like, what are we doing? Just like Quaritch, they both just lose their minds and they're like, I don't know what to do. So let me know what you think, what's going to happen with Spider, because with him, maybe that's just his arc. Like, we learned that he can breathe without a mask on Pandora. Has a Q somehow, a connection. Is it from Awa? Does Awa want him and Kiri, to eventually mate and have a family? Maybe they're the key to saving Pandora. Well, I think it's obvious that the Ash people, before they became the Ash people, whatever their tribe was called before, they had contact with the humans. And I'm picturing, remember in the first Avatar movie with Grace, and you see the photos of her teaching the students, English and their ways and that stuff. I think we'll flash back to that, and they'll pick out one of the students and be like, oh yeah, they went on to become part of their tribe, and then we didn't hear from them again. Whenever their, village and that was burned down because of the mountain, the fire, and like, who started it? Was it a natural disaster, or was it the humans? But the fact that Varang speaks English, that's a sign. I hope they address it, because they wouldn't pick it up anywhere else. Like, let's say they sent one of the kids to learn, and they came back and they taught them. It's like, okay, something simple like that. But if they don't address it, it's like, where did you learn this language? And did our heroes, did they know of this tribe before? Because they say it's a new tribe. And new because they're called the Ash people. Because of what happened. That I get. But they've been alive since before then. So hopefully that's addressed in this movie. Or in one of the sequels. Because it could be a special moment. Because, like, let's say one of their kids, went and learned from Grace and then came back, and then, everything. I'm still curious, like, what started the conflict between Varang, the Ash people, and our heroes in this movie, Jake and Neytiri. Because it's like, this wasn't an issue before. They never referenced them before. But it's very exciting, though. I'm curious what's going to happen. And again, you don't want too much exposition, but it could be something as simple as that, where it's just like, oh, we learned English from Grace and, her crew. Like, oh, okay. And then just move on. I wonder if the humans back on Earth, or the humans, the scientists on Pandora, could develop human avatars. So you think of the recombinant program, and that's interesting, but you look at the Way of Water and Quaritch and his team, they don't try to infiltrate tribes in that like Jake did. They're just already on a mission. It's like, well, didn't you want to blend in, infiltrate, and then, do your damage? But it got me thinking, because let's say Jake is captured at the end of the movie and is shipped back to Earth, and they have a program, even on the way there, where, they have like a clone, like a copy of him, something like that. Some kind of a backup. Just like they did, again, with the recombinant program, where they backed up your memories on a little USB stick. But if they can make those Na'vi avatars, it's like, why couldn't they make humans? I mean, all the coding, genetics and that, it's all still complicated. But I wonder, because maybe we'll see Neytiri, we'll actually see Zoe. Because I have a theory I'm going to talk about the end of the movie. I think it'll be devastating and heartbreaking, but in 4, Neytiri, she's going to go to Earth, but maybe Norm's like, hey, hold on, I got something for you. Because it's like, you're going there without a plan, and, use this. So that way her form stays on Pandora, but her mind is in her human body. And, with Quaritch and Jake, maybe see them in human form again, but just something to think about. One big question I have is, why didn't Jake and the others prepare for the humans' return? So it's like, well, they're not going to slaughter them. Instead, they sent him home. They didn't keep him captive or anything, which is kind of an interesting choice. Like, Jake must have known they'd be back. They're going to regroup, come back, obviously with no new technologies, which is interesting. Despite the state of the Earth, as we saw in the first movie, it's like, well, there's still a lot of people. And it's like, why 2154? Like, there's nothing really new. As far as technology, like, oh, we've seen all this stuff before. But yesterday I was watching a video, and I guess they have some comics, especially in between Avatar 1 and 2, and they said Jake was always preparing in that, and it's like, well, no, the humans just come back. Him and Neytiri see their lights from their ships and that. They land, they set up a new base, and then we jump forward a year. It's like, that's so underwhelming. He knew they'd be back. And the timeline, too, because, it takes about 6 years, from Earth to Pandora, vice versa. And they just gonna let them set up base. You figure at the end of the first movie, all the tribes, because, that connection with Awa reaching out to people, and we have this big battle at the end, and it's like, really? You couldn't even do the horn thing and, okay, everyone, phase 1. There's just nothing. And it's really disappointing, especially after all that wait for the sequel. It's just like, yep, they're back. All right, 1 year later, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You guys didn't even set any traps or anything? And I'll have to read, whatever novels or comics and that. But it's something I would have put in the movie, at least. Or have Jake say, like, we tried to stop them from even landing, but they came back with huge numbers and overwhelmed us. Well, early on, for some reason, James Cameron spoiled that Quaritch was going to be the main villain in all 5 films. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he'll be in all 5, but I think that Spider dying, trying to end the conflict between him and Jake, that'll really, mess with his mind. And be like, what are we doing? Like, we came here on a mission, now we've become these people, and we both lost a son. I mean, Jake really 2 sons, because Spider is pretty much, Jake and Neytiri's boy. Kind of adopted like Kiri. And I think that's what it would take for this character arc with Quaritch. So, or maybe he doesn't resolve everything with Jake, but it's like, hey, we got to work together, take down the Ash people and the humans, and I mean, it could be really messed up. I mean, Quaritch could end up killing himself because he's just lost, and it's just like, what am I doing? What is the mission? And he's lost twice already. And are the humans going to hunt him down? Or are they able to shut him down? If you remember Fast and the Furious, Hobbs and Shaw, spoiler alert at the end, the way they shut down Brixton. You just flip a switch and offline. You figure they would in case they ever turn on them, because they can overpower them pretty easily. But let me know what you think in the comments. Well, with The Way of Water, people were speculating that Norm is Kiri's father. Because you think about it. So Grace wasn't pregnant when she died. Or it was very early on, like in human form, but you wonder if she got pregnant and then connects with her avatar, would it inherit that pregnancy? I don't think so in this case. But point being, so Norm and Grace, they mated as, their avatar forms. Because Kiri isn't like part human or anything, as far as we know. And they didn't really, pun intended, dive deep into, relationships and that. They just kind of left it up in the air. It's like, well, it's pretty clear that Spider is Quaritch's son. It's like, okay. But with Kiri, it's kind of left open. Like, was she kind of selected by Awa to become her physical form representation? Because they noticed that Grace's avatar is pregnant, and it's kind of like, okay. They kind of left it open, and it's like, well, was there a father? Or is it like Anakin? Like, there was no father. But it's interesting because even those things, it's kind of like, oh, I'm more curious, like Kiri, her connection to Awa and all that, and Quaritch, his character arc. Those things I'm more fascinated by. So whatever happens with this, I think it'd have to be a good twist to get people talking about it. Because otherwise it's just like, yeah, Norm's her dad, and he was barely in the second one. It's like, oh, okay, moving on. So hopefully it's not underwhelming, but I don't know if it's really important to the story. Unless it is Awa who placed the baby inside of Grace's avatar. Which is interesting, because it's like, well, how do you carry something like that? Well, I guess that kind of makes sense, because Grace's human body was dying and dead, but not the avatar, so... Anyways, let me know what you think. One of the things I appreciate is that I have no idea what's going to happen in this movie. There are things they don't explain in the trailers, no context. It's just like, hey, Spider can breathe. There's going to be a big battle. The Ash people, where have they been? What happened with them? Was it a natural disaster? But one thing I'm curious about is, now we know that Quaritch at some point turns himself in kind of to the Ash people. We see that shot of him from behind, and he has his bag of supplies and his arms up. And I love that. I have no idea what point of the film this is, because we see when the Ash people capture Jake's kids, And then Quaritch is there with Jake, and he's like, wait, he can breathe without a mask? And it's like, what point of the movie is this? And then the fight between Jake and Quaritch, is it at the end? But anyways, I'm going all over the place. But I'm curious because Quaritch joins the Ash people, and then obviously he has the backing of the RDA, and then his crew of the recombinants. And I wonder if it's just like, well, like he said, you want to spread your fire, I can be of help with that. Or is there something else that triggers this conflict between the Ash people and our heroes? Because we never heard of them before. And I just wonder if it would be an opening to the movie where it's like, oh, there was something else going on that started this. Or just Quaritch teaming up with them and then saying, well, we got our targets, let's go hunt them down. So they're not being, like a defining motive, for Varang in that. Just wants people to suffer. So you figure what happened to her and her tribe happened recently. And because otherwise it's like, well, you would have started spreading your fire earlier, right? Well, I think Avatar Fire and Ash definitely needs a cliffhanger ending. I'm surprised 2 didn't, because it was basically the same movie as the first one for the most part. And with this one idea I have, not a theory or anything really, it could happen, but this is something I kind of came up with on my own. But so we see the shots in the trailer. Jake is either captured or he turns himself in to the RDA, and we don't get much context, which is good because no spoilers. But let's say in either or, whether he's captured or surrenders, he's going to be shipped back to Earth, and you think, geez, well, that's 6 years there and then 6 years if he comes back, and it's heartbreaking. And Neytiri wants to follow him. And let's say she does, and for some reason, this part I haven't really written, but let's say none of the kids can come with them, or it's like a last minute effort, and because you see all the humans, it looks like they're cheering in that and celebrating, and maybe they won the battle in the end. So Jake is being taken in, boarded on the ship, and Neytiri doesn't have time to tell her kids like goodbye or anything. Maybe she's nearby, and it's like, I have to get, on that ship with him. Because it's like, well, we can sabotage the mission so they don't make it to Earth or something. Or turn the ship around, something like that. Take it over. But let's say that fails. And it's just heartbreaking because they're not going to see their kids for, at least over a decade. And something just heartbreaking, gut-wrenching. And you're like, oh my gosh, the time away from their family. And especially with their kids not knowing what happened to them. They'll presume they're dead. Or an ending where it's really, really messed up, and, some or all the kids die as well. Because these movies, it's like you find this new homeworld, you fall in love with the place, and then the consequences for your actions in that. And, but it's one idea I have. So yeah, definitely a cliffhanger ending. And then something like that with, there's no time. I can't say goodbye to the kids or anything. There's nobody else around to say, hey, tell the kids we'll be back hopefully soon. Because Neytiri wouldn't know, I don't think, about cryo sleep and how long it takes to get to Earth and that. So maybe she doesn't realize it, but we do. And that's, like breaking our hearts watching it happen. But just some ideas I have. And typically I'll form like theories in that for how movies are going to end, but usually they go a completely different direction. But it's fun to, kind of write in your head, and something like that would be like, oh my gosh. And then we end, with them on the ship, and it's like, somebody had written, I think on Reddit, that Avatar 4, James Cameron said there is a 6-year time jump from the end of 3 to the beginning of 4. That signifies, well, we're going to Earth. And I don't know if that's legit, because again, it's like, why would you spoil stuff like that? But could open with them on Earth and we're like, oh my gosh, there's already 6 years they haven't been with their kids. And no fault of their own, it's not like they left them or anything, but when everything gets resolved or they escape and then come back, and then it's like, oh my gosh, we lost all this time. So maybe they win in the end or resolve everything, but it's still like, you guys took away over a decade with our family, and it'd just be so messed up, so unsettling, but I think it'd be a good move, something like that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Well, in The Way of Water, we learned that the humans, I'm not sure if they're done mining for the unobtainium, but they're after, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, the Amrita, that liquid from the Tolkiens, and they say it can prevent aging in humans. And I wonder, how did they figure that out? They'd have to test that. Extracting it isn't that simple. So I wonder if that was, decades ago. I'd like some clarity on that, because they'd have to test it out, right? And on multiple humans. So I wonder, because obviously back on Earth things aren't too well from what we've heard. And if the humans, if all of them, end up moving to Pandora at whatever point, in 4 and 5, they've got the unobtainium right there. So they wouldn't have to go back and sell it, But let me know what you think in the comments. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, the podcast is available on YouTube, SoundCloud, where you can also download the episode for free, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And I'm so ready for this movie. I can't wait to see it. Definitely going to watch it in theaters. December 19th, interesting date. They're terrible about marketing, the time releases of these movies. Like Captain America and on Valentine's Day, it's like, really? And just one example, but this I would have put out, over the summer, even next summer. But I'm glad we don't have to wait too long. But it's not like a Christmas movie, as far as I know. Unless it was co-directed by Shane Black or something. But I'd love to hear from you, so leave some comments. And I recorded all these as clips, so it's easier to make video clips in that. So check them all out. That way it's easier. So if you want to listen to the whole podcast, which you probably have if you're listening to this, so thank you. But there are clips of it, of everything. And so a lot to talk about. And I can see the movie reaching 1 billion. I'm not sure how soon. There's a lot of hype for the movie, but the trailer views aren't like crazy or anything. But overall, positive reaction in that. So thanks again, and I think we'll get some more spots and maybe another trailer before the movie comes out. So I'll report back, but thanks again, and I'll see you next time.